Something I spend a lot of my time doing is trying to analyze community posts of any kind, trying to differentiate between an angry yet vocal minority of players who shout indiscriminately and what could be considered a more unified community perception. Perception is really the key word for me here on the channel a lot of the times, and Blizzard has acknowledged as much, because very often it's not about what is factually going wrong, but more about what the players perceive the problems could be. Naturally, that does not make the issue any less real, just that rather than trying to approach a problem from a numerical perspective, you are looking for the root cause, the reason that players feel the way they do. Because whether we're talking about perception or not, any problem that affects the community's mood overall is going to affect how they consume your media, and if they do it at all. For a very long time we've had angry mobs of players announce that Overwatch is dying, but never did we have any facts to back up such claims. And we still don't. But even seemingly minor things like a queue time increase of a minute or two during prime time can make players feel like the game is on a rough decline. Things like that are the reason that developers and publishers acknowledge player problems so infrequently, because any fault that they admit to can cause a chain reaction that shapes the perception of many players that otherwise might have not thought twice about it. Naturally, when I woke up this morning and I received an email from Blizzard asking me to take a survey, a number of things were going on in my head. We hear things like, we are very happy with where competitive play is headed, or the game is in a healthy state all the time. But with a number of community outcries piling up in recent memory, complaining about all sorts of things from cosmetics to gameplay balance and matchmaking, it seemed like it was only a matter of time that Blizzard was forced to acknowledge this as an issue. Now, your average gamer is unlikely to be taking game surveys all the time for a number of reasons, but what matters the most to us today is that these types of surveys are not taken for fun, neither are they taken at random. When your game launches, allowing players to rate their gameplay experience post-match makes for very valuable feedback initially, but eventually turns into, I lost, thus I was not having fun. So a binary choice kind of structure can only get you so far, which means that it is not unlikely for a publisher to hire a third-party company to deduct surveys in order to find out how players feel about a new game or IP, and see how we are consuming our content. It isn't completely unfair to assume that close to 3 years post-launch, Overwatch has probably lost most of its initial steam, and players can feel it. Where previously it felt like a they will eat it up anyway kind of approach, more competition in the market definitely helps shaping players' perception of their own game by making comparisons. It would be insane to assume that doing the same thing year after year would not eventually cause unfavorable results in the likes of player abandonment due to burnout or maybe even sheer boredom. And yet, this is exactly what happened with Activision Blizzard and Overwatch. A minimalist approach to a massive IP held to very high standards by one of the world's most renowned developers. A throne that seemed to be unquestionably theirs was eventually taken from under them, because they were obviously not listening to the demands of the common folk. As cheesy as that sounds, you know what I mean. Now, do not make the mistake to underestimate a developer's ability to gather information from the back end without us ever knowing about it. It is a very common practice, in fact. Blizzard is very likely to have tons of data surrounding our gameplay behavior and what makes or breaks our experience. Studying player abandonment is very key to making sure that players are sticking with your title as much as possible. So the fact that they need more information to find out why players are actually abandoning the game might tell you a thing or two, or it might simply be a matter of interpretation. Now back to me receiving that email. When something like this ends up in my inbox, I am very likely to have either of two reactions, or maybe even both. A developer asking for our opinion on the game can make us feel hopeful in times of distress. We have been crying out over and over again that we feel this game deserves better treatment, that Blizzard and Activision are not doing Overwatch justice, and that things need to change for the better of the player experience. So when we see them actually reaching out, that can make us feel very hopeful for things to actually change for the better, assuming we are convinced that our opinion follows in line with that of a greater part of our community. But it can also leave a bitter aftertaste when we realize that this could be a direct admission of fault. It turns an issue of perceived nature into a very real one for us. It can make us feel like, no, we were not just getting unlucky. No, we are not the only ones who can feel the fun being drained out of the game. If they go as far as to having us take surveys, then that means that this is actually a widespread issue. And make no mistake, this was not a purely merchandise-based kind of survey. This is all about how we consume content surrounding the Overwatch IP and how it makes us feel about the game. This is the core focus. Have we participated in seasonal events? How did we like the Nano Cola micro event? Would we be participating again if an event of that nature was to occur? Are we consuming content surrounding the game on third-party platforms? How much more likely does consuming this content make us to actually play the game? And which role does esport play for us in our overall perception of Overwatch? These questions clearly show that Blizzard knows how all of this content affects us. They know about me specifically that watching the league makes me exponentially more likely to pick up the game at the end of the day. But the question then is, when do I put it down again? Because it does not matter how awesome animated shorts, comics and tournaments are if the game itself deters us from playing. How much do we care about loot boxes? Are we liking the cosmetics? Do we care about the game modes and maps? What are our thoughts on matchmaking and gameplay balance? These are the questions asked by a developer that is seemingly ready for change. A developer that said, you think you do, but you don't, rather than talking to us about our wishes. A developer that asked us, do you not have phones, when they try to shove a cheap cash grab of a beloved IP down our throats when they know that we are a primarily PC driven community. A developer that demands to know what's best for us, and a developer that tells us how to have fun rather than letting us figure it out for ourselves. It is my belief that Activision and Blizzard are now feeling the heat. It is now that they realize that we will not be eating up everything they serve us on a paper platter, and that at the end of the day, we know best what we want, and that we no longer agree with their methods. Hey, thanks for watching today's video. I really do appreciate your guys' support. It is worth noting that on the 4 accounts that I own, only one of them actually received an invite to take the survey, and it isn't even my main account. So it's possible that they are sending these out in staggered fashion or only to random players. Regardless, I wanted to talk about this because it actually made me feel very hopeful when, after BlizzCon, I really felt like they stopped caring. There are always two sides to any coin, so I wanted to cover the possibilities that I saw, but personally, I am anxious to find out what they do with all that data. Also, a quick shout out for my partner Humble Bundle. If you want to make videos yourself, or maybe you have a friend and you can't stand watching them use the Windows Movie Maker, Humble Bundle's Creative Freedom Bundle, among a lot of great software to express your creativity, offers Sony Vegas Pro 15 for as low as $25. I'm personally using Vegas 14 from last year's bundle myself, and it has been my go-to software for every video you see on the channel. It's quite intuitive and easy to use compared to something like Adobe, at least to me. Maybe I'm a special case, I don't know. Anyway, what's great about Humble Bundle is that you get to choose where your money goes. So even if you don't like my face, you can make sure that your money ends up where it makes a difference. So whether you want to get into editing yourself or pick up a cool gift for a friend that wants to get into making videos, I'm sure you won't be disappointed with this bundle. With that out of the way, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my videos, and I hope to see you guys next time. Happy holidays, everyone.